All right, it's happening and you can't look back. So this is going to be a little new. We're going to do a daily roundup of things that are interesting and maybe relevant to you in your life when it comes to news. So let's start off with some sad news. The Wall Street Journal taking us through. The U.S. no longer ranks amongst world's 20th happiest countries. It's kind of depressing. The U.S. has fallen out of the top 20 for the first time since a global ranking began in 2012, due in large part to a drop in happiness amongst younger adults. It's interesting considering that marijuana is now legal. Everyone's getting a little high, but highly unhappy, apparently. Americans fell to 23rd place in happiness. That was down from 15th a year ago. Oh, the mighty have fallen, according to data collected in the Gallup World Poll for the World Happiness Report of 2024. So Costa Rica and Lithuania are amongst the countries that are happier. Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, Israel. They must have this. I don't know when they collected the data for that, but okay, I digress. Australia. Okay, these are all like very happy, very Norwegian-esque types of countries, and the U.S. is nowhere to be found on that. All right. I guess in the U.S., self-reported happiness has decreased in all age groups, but especially for young adults, like I just said. Americans 30 years and younger ranked 62nd globally in terms of well-being, behind the Dominican Republic, Brazil, and Guatemala. I'm wondering if they're actually interviewing Americans, or are they just interviewing the people coming back and forth between the border? Because I see Brazil and Guatemala, and now I actually have some questions. And Israel being on that list doesn't make any sense. So, okay, thank you, Wall Street Journal. What a way to kick off the first ever daily news. Creep tweets. We got creep tweets going on. That happens a lot. Barron Trump, everybody's got an obsession with him. Yes, do I think that he is a freak of nature in the sense of his height? 1,000%. That is a top athlete. That's the type of kid I would want. Like, as a parent, I would be putting him in every darn sport, and he would just wreck it. He would be so good. Okay, so this was an NBC executive. He deleted this tweet. Kind of weird. This was at 7:44 a.m. today. Barron Trump turns 18 today. He's fair game now. This, like, why is society so weird? Why is Hollywood so darn weird? Like, Barron Trump, you don't hear a peep out of that kid. Like, say what you want about anyone, but you cannot say that this is like a bad kid. You don't hear anything about him, and you know that the press would be like foaming at the mouth to have any ounce of reporting that shed bad light on Barron Trump. It's almost like Hollywood wants us to know, mainstream wants us to know that there are just absolute perverts. If we're going to take it into that scope, it's either one of two things. It's either he's fair game to go ahead and attack minors, at the time attacking a minor and giving him bad press and saying whatever about Barron Trump, but then now he's 18, so it's fair game to really start the slander as if it didn't exist before, okay? Or it's what we're all thinking, everyone's thinking it, that this was some dirty, depraved tweet about the fact that he's legal and 18. It's just gross. Okay, speaking of gross things, we continue on the Clinton kill list. You know, it wasn't that I was intending to talk about anything that was on the scope of liberal or conservative, but this is what's happening in the news, so I guess we're going to talk about it. According to the Gateway Pundit, executive director of the Bill and Hillary Clinton Airport in Arkansas was shot in the head by federal agents after allegedly opening fire. Look at the picture of this guy. I don't know him at all, but I'm like, he doesn't seem like he would be this like crazy spy scaling the walls. So like, why was there a shootout? Just based off of, if I don't know anything about this, I'm just looking at this photo. Picturing this man in a shootout, I guess just when you don't assume that could be your worst enemy, who knows? But Brian Malinowski, sure. Brian Malinowski, the executive director of the Bill and Hillary Clinton National Airport. He was shot in the head by federal agents on Tuesday following a firefight in his residence in West Little Rock. This was around 6 a.m. The ATF showed on up. He was 53 years old. They were going there to serve a warrant, and somehow serving that warrant turned into gunfire, according to the Daily Mail, according to Gateway Pundit. Arkansas State Police confirmed that he was the individual who fired at the agents first, and then they had to return fire by default. They hit him right in the head, just like I like to call the headshot, it's the Hillary Clinton trick shot. You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at the list, the Hillary Clinton kill list, a little control F, and oh, look at that. Vince Foster, former White House counselor and colleague of Hillary Clinton at Little Rock's Rose Law Firm. Arkansas is like not safe. That's what I'm learning. I thought it was. You know, you hear the song Alabama, Arkansas. It sounds like a nice, happy place to be, but apparently not, because you die of a gunshot wound to the head, and it's ruled a suicide after the fact, apparently. Vince Foster. How about another one? Ed Wiley, Clinton fundraiser, found dead November 93, deep in the woods in Virginia of a gunshot wound to the head. There it is. Ruled a suicide. Patterns. Jerry Parks. Oh, wait, just kidding. He was gunned down, but it was in a car. He didn't get hit in the head. Let's find some more. Why not? Kathy Ferguson, ex-wife of Arkansas trooper Danny Ferguson, was found dead May 94 in her living room with a gunshot to her head. It's like I don't want to be right. No one wants to be right about this stuff. Okay, I guess that's it. That's as much as I'll scream about the Hillary Clinton kill list. But Arkansas, like I get very confused about Arkansas because Sarah Huckabee Sanders is the governor of Arkansas. I need some law and order. I like her. So it's not that I'm ragging on her at all. I love Sarah Huckabee. Everyone does, especially if you're conservative, right? But what the heck is happening in Arkansas? I'm like scared to go there. I don't know. I guess we all should be. Okay. Who else? What else should we be wary about? Ukraine. It's in the news all the time. I know we hear about it all the time, but now we have to talk about Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, that man, not to be trusted. I continuously just can't with Lindsey Graham. Anytime that there's a problem and I want to say, help me, Lindsey Graham, I think about him running for office in 2020 and his campaign funds were just like abysmal. And he was begging on every news outlet for a donation because he was very scared. So he'd always say, help me, LindseyGraham.com, please help me. But apparently Lindsey Graham doesn't need the help. Zalinsky needs the help. And that's why Graham met with Zalinsky in Ukraine this week. He met with Zalinsky. And every time I look at his first name, it reminds me of like Voldemort. Volodymyr? I should know this right at this point. But every time I read that, I think like Voldemort Zalinsky, which is just very in pattern, I guess, with whatever operation he has going on, considering he canceled his presidential election. But ironically, Russia still had their elections ongoing. So what are you going to do about that? But Senator Lindsey Graham, a war hawk for sure, met and wanted to discuss this week further funding on the war of the war-torn country and the divide on Capitol Hill. So he wants to give him more money. I don't know. Seems very weird to me. The Ukrainian army's needs and the Eastern European nations' eventual integration into NATO. Eventual. Interesting. The Ukrainian leader wrote this on X. So he was promoting that. He'll take money from anybody. He doesn't care whether or not it's Biden. It's because Biden's cash flow is depleting too. So now he's willing to take anything from anyone. Let's see. Graham's visit just comes weeks after he voted against a $95 billion bill $95 billion defense and foreign aid package in the Senate. Interesting. He voted against it. The bill included $60 billion for Ukraine, including $19.85 billion to restock U.S. military weapons provided from the Pentagon's inventory and $13.8 billion to allow Ukraine to buy weapons and munitions from U.S. industry. So what this tells me, in pattern with Lindsey Graham, because no one on Capitol Hill rallies for anything unless money is involved, why would he veto against $95 billion in an aid package for Ukraine and then all of a sudden meet with Zalinsky? To me, that sounds like he wants some sort of advantage or cut to vote in favor of Ukraine receiving money, right? Is that a conspiracy theory? I don't think so. Probably not. Another conspiracy theory is January 6th, right? What was really going on there? We've all seen the evidence. This was a setup so much so that we have to talk about one of our own in the movement, Isabel DeLuca. Okay, she's an Instagram influencer. She likes to bake. She's blonde. She just, I guess, apparently is a terrorist, because she has now just been charged, according to the AP, charged with joining the January 6th attacks on the U.S. Capitol. And she was met with the FBI and the DOJ coming after her. Absolutely bizarre. Let's take a look. Let's see. She has more than 333,000 followers on X. She was a former congressional intern for Lee Zeldin. And Okay. So why was the FBI apparently at her door charging her? Videos captured her entering, so according to the AP, capturing her entering a suite of conference rooms inside the Capitol through a broken window on the lower West Terrace. She passed a table out of the window. So this is really what apparently is the kicker as to why she's dealing with legalities right now. She passed a table out of the window and then climbed back outside through the same window. A table that another rider threw at a police resembled the one that DeLuca passed out on the window, according to an FBI's based on the affidavit. So don't touch tables. Don't do anything. Just be a bystander. I don't know. Don't do anything. When I look at the image of her, it's like she touched it. She didn't just like pull it out of the Capitol by her own self. And then it was crowd surfing. The table was having a ball. Everyone on Capitol Hill was having a ball. No one even knew. Half the people down there didn't even know that there was an actual insurrection happening. It was a free-for-all. I've been to the Capitol many times in my former lives, at the White House, working for news networks. People just ebb and flow in there on any given day for any given cause. So I would say, why don't we just take a look at Capitol Hill's like police, Capitol Hill police, and like where there were many times I showed up to Capitol Hill on behalf of the White House, and you have to have a badge. I had a driver. You go up, you meet someone at the gate. I would go straight in to the building, and it depending on who was there that day, it was like they would ask for a badge or not ask for a badge. So as far as I'm concerned, from my own like personal experience of in and out of Capitol Hill, the security ain't tight. And why else do you think you get people storming in all the time on congressional hearings and all this mockery of people approaching? Not mockery, I guess, it's like they're working for the people. We should be allowed to approach our legislatures, but that stuff happens all the time. Why? Because there is like no ounce of security at the Capitol. But I guess if you go there when there's like a full-on concert and the table wants to crowd surf, then you're going to be met with the FBI at your door. So I think she'll be all right. I mean, if that's what our government's afraid of, then we really shouldn't be putting the government in our hands at all at this point, right? Love your country, not your government. Your government can't do anything for you. They're scared of a 24-year-old blonde girl that makes TikTok videos. All right. Bizarre. But what's even more bizarre is, I guess, Joe Biden, even though we should expect this right now, he bizarrely wanders off stage as he is being introduced at a Phoenix diner. That happened this week. The weirdest part about this, it was like his campaign manager is talking, doing like the opening lines, like, welcome everybody. Hello, we appreciate your support. And then Biden just like looks off in a daze and is out of frame. And you just find him sitting down with a baby. So I'm not even really going to harp on that one. It's just weird. We already know. Joe Biden. All right. Things that we don't know, or maybe we do. Now we know that Americans should not, they have to challenge whether or not they're able to own guns, but illegal immigrants don't have to. That's an interesting one. An Obama appointed judge rules that illegal aliens are in fact allowed to have our amendment. Sure. Why not? Look at this lady. Nice smile. But don't be fooled by the smile. Actually, I'm just being nice. It's not a nice smile. She looks evil. This looks exactly, if I was to picture like what judge would say, hey, illegal immigrants ought to have guns, I would think it's this lady. Meanwhile, I'm just assuming this girl has probably never even shot a gun a day in her life. But anyway, U.S. District Judge Sharon Johnson Coleman, she appointed by Barack Obama, ruled that an illegal immigrant has the right to bear arms under the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. It's like hilarious. They have the right, but we don't. We have to fight and make it and justify when we have a gun. We don't have constitutional carry around the U.S. This is why I live in Florida, because I don't even have to think about this stuff. It's hard on YouTube. You're not supposed to curse. I would really curse to this story. This is nuts. All right, so let's see. This ruling came out because of a case of, here we go with a fun name. It ain't American. Heriberto Carbajal Flores, who faces charges under a federal statute that prohibits non-citizens without legal status in the U.S. from possessing in or affecting commerce any firearm or ammunition. Interesting. He's been living in the U.S. illegally, was charged after he was found to be carrying a gun in Chicago during the civil unrest. Always unrest in Chicago, but okay. During the civil unrest in the spring of 2020. He and his lawyers, he must have a pretty darn good lawyer. I wonder who's paying that bill. He and his lawyers have fought the charge, arguing that the gun was for self-defense and citing a Supreme Court ruling. and this is New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, that New York laws are unconstitutional and that the ability to carry a pistol in public was a constitutional right. The judge saying that, yes, Flores, it was acting in self-defense, states that his nonviolent history and his adherence to the conditions of his pretrial release demonstrates that he does not pose a public safety risk. If we could just look at gun ownership and gun rights and say, like, every very knowledgeable, smart, good gun owner doesn't have a record, okay? They just don't have a record. So for that to be the prerequisite to allow an illegal to have it, but it can't be a prerequisite. It shouldn't be there should be no requisites at all. There should be nothing. But if you're going to use this logic, then Americans should be able to obtain and bear arms, right? Okay. Back to legalities. Peter Navaro, prison time. He just reported to a corrections facility in Miami for exactly what Hunter Biden did and continues to do. So Peter Navaro, he served as the White House trade advisor, former President Donald Trump, good guy, turned himself in, very nice of him, turned himself in to a federal prison in Miami on Tuesday to begin serving a 4-month sentence for defying a congressional subpoena. And this surrender came after one day Chief Justice John Roberts rejected his 11th hour plea bid to remain free while he tried to appeal this charge of contempt of Congress. That's all like Hunter Biden is doing is just contempt of Congress, and Capitol Hill is like, we will charge you. But they just decided to put Peter Navaro in jail instead. He's actually in an old man's correctional facility. Like, look at this picture. Look at this man. I gotta get these ads out of the way. Cute as a button. It's like I'm talking about him like the way I talk about Dr. Phil. This guy, I think about Isabel, I think about Peter Navaro. I'm just thinking about people we really put, like, justice somehow starts to just full send. Like the DOJ just like gets after it, gets through all the paperwork, and somehow suddenly charges these people so quick when it's like nice, easy people that just want to follow the law, I guess. Like, I don't really understand his contempt of Congress. Hunter Biden seems fine, but okay. Navaro pledged to his appeal, saying that this was coming from judges who are Trump haters. They say there is no evidence that his prosecution was politically motivated. But then why did he have to come to Congress? Because the election wasn't fair and free? He's not the only one that thinks that. He's not the only one that knows that. But here we go. Things that we don't know. This is a sad one. The abortion record. So do you guys remember Olivia Rodrigo went ahead and was passing out contraception, the abortion pill at her concerts, her guts tour? Well, apparently she's lost all the guts, okay? Because she stopped doing it after it's been a PR nightmare. Most Americans, people aren't celebrating abortions. That's not something that people want. That's not something that women want to endure, that women want to fight. It's like this weird, like, capitalism kind of drives, capitalism and just public opinion drives the reality of society. And she thought, just like the rest of mainstream is not with the everyday American, thought it was a good idea to give like 12-year-olds abortion pills. And can you imagine being a mom and then your kid, you bring her to a concert and she's like, what's an abortion? What's sex? What's babies die? Like, babies die? You don't know where that conversation is going. You want Olivia Rodrigo, who's like an industry plant, to go ahead and start like putting those ideas into kids' minds? Like, that is horrific. So she stops doing that because all parents start losing their ish. Okay. Doesn't that all speak for itself? I don't know. And it's just coming off the premise of this whole, like, abortions are banned everywhere. Like, no, people are still getting them. Despite the overturn of Roe v. Wade, the number of abortions in the United States actually increased in 2023. This is actually pretty wild. So new findings from the monthly abortion provision study show that an estimated 1,026,690 abortions occurred in the formal healthcare system in 2023, the first full calendar year after the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs v. Jackson, Women's Health Organization, which overturned Roe v. Wade. This represents a rate of 15.7 abortions per 1,000 women of reproductive age. So that's a 10% increase since 2020. And now, unfortunately, it's the highest number and rate measured in the United States in over a decade. So yeah, am I glad that Olivia Rodrigo cut that whole let me push abortions on like 8, 12-year-olds, preteens, women of actual childbearing age. Yeah, I'm glad that she freaking cut it out. But even if the reason that she was even doing it is just so it's negated right here. Look at the numbers. The most in a decade. So, hello. Fact check. Anyways, to more anniversaries. We talk about Roe v. Wade. How about the 4-year anniversary of COVID? It's really interesting. These are all pretty recent. You talk about athletes, unfortunately, collapsing in the middle of nowhere. The Sun just reported Joanna Neves, dead at 37, a Paralympic swimmer, dies of cardiac arrest. It's nuts to see people that are just so healthy completely just drop out of nowhere. This is one of many that have happened this week. A Brazilian, Joanna Neves, went into cardiac arrest in the early hours of yesterday morning. So this was on the 19th. So this was 2 days ago, yesterday morning. She took part in 3 Paralympics, winning 2 silver, 3 bronze medals at London 2012, Rio 2016, and Tokyo 2020. So it's like just a badass athlete. And she just falls short. She's not the only one. A soccer player, COVID has no bounds. The vaccine has no bounds. It's not just in the U.S., it's everywhere. Egypt star Ahmed Rafat, he suffers cardiac arrest, collapses on the pitch. There's a video about it. This is on live television. He just absolutely drops in the middle of a game. Luckily, he's still alive, unlike Joanna, but okay, that's it. And of course, the news, everyone's like, is this because of the vaccine? Is this because of what? It's just nuts. Earlier, a sports brief reported that another soccer player from Ghana also suffered a heart attack and collapsed and died during an Albanian Superliga match. I'm not very well versed in soccer. I'm sure maybe some of you guys are, but again, not the only one. And then lastly, a tennis player. Again, live television. Can you just imagine being there in the stands? At some point, it's like you can't even, there's like nothing else to say. Like everyone is screaming to the rooftops about the COVID and how it's harming the fact that it could harm anyone, the vaccine is killing people. There was a multi-country report that looked over 1 million cases, at least, and was able to connect the dots that a lot of those cases have similarities in cardiac arrest, heart problems, blood, all of it. But yes, Telegraph reported a tennis player, Arthur Kazoo, I'm assuming that's how you say it, collapsed midway through Miami Open in a Miami Open match. So here in Florida, 21 years old. The 21-year-old was forced to retire from his first round qualifying match against Harold Mayotte on Monday after he fell to the ground during the third set in the fierce Florida heat. So, was it the heat? Was it the heat? I've never watched a tennis match where it wasn't just blazing hot. Like I can see the heat permeating off the tennis court. But it's the Florida heat. This Miami Open happens every year, right? So, expectations, it's going to be hot at this time. That's all I got. All right. Well, I just gave you 10 news stories. Maybe you didn't fall asleep. Maybe you did. I hope you didn't. But I just gave you 10 news stories that I thought were kind of relevant. They happened today. They happened within 24 hours, 48, maybe 72. That's my max. All relevant, all important. And did you like them? Did you hate them? I don't know. Let me know in the comments.